consequential comments around tariffs. Here to react is NDP Leader Jagmeet Singh. Mr. Singh, good to see you. Thanks for making the time.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a mixed reaction tonight as I interview various Canadian politicians. Some are breathing a sigh of relief. We heard Ontario Premier Doug Ford say, it doesn't matter, they're coming at some point or the other. What is your reaction? Like, are you feeling relieved to not have heard us named specifically, or do you feel like those tariffs are inevitable at this point?
Oh, I don't feel relieved at all. I think when Donald Trump threatens, we got to take it seriously. There is not anything right now that he's presented specifically, but I think he hasn't backed away from his threats. So we should take it at, it's not now, but it'll be coming soon. We don't want a trade war. It's something that would be harmful to Canada. But if he brings a trade war, we need to be ready to respond. That's why I've called for strong action, swift and strong retaliatory tariffs to make it clear if he picks a fight with Canada, it's going to hurt Canadian workers, but it's also going to hurt Americans. The only thing that Trump will understand is force and strength. We need to show that.
And how would you respond differently than what the federal government has laid out, which does include counter tariffs? They've talked, for example, about immediately levying, if in fact Donald Trump did apply tariffs to us, 10 consumer products like Florida orange juice, Kentucky bourbon, then a consultation on another sizable package of about $37 billion, then a bigger one at $110 billion. I know you've mentioned critical minerals, but more specifically, what do you think the federal government could do to counter the application of those tariffs?
Well, I think we need to have dollar for dollar retaliatory tariffs. So if they hit us with tariffs, we need to respond in kind. We also need to look at escalating that if there's additional steps we can take. I've said that critical minerals is a starting point. We're the only country viable right now. China has said no to critical minerals to the U.S. We're the only country that can be a good source of critical minerals. Given that Elon Musk is so prominent in Donald Trump's cabinet or in his administration, it makes it clear that if we stop the flow of critical minerals, that's directly going to impact Tesla, Elon Musk company. So I think that's what we need to do. What I am concerned about, though, is that I've seen a lack of commitment from the part of conservatives like Pierre Poilievre, who has been very weak on this point. And after receiving the endorsement from Elon Musk, someone who is a part of an administration that has threatened our country with economic pressure to make us the 51st state, when asked if we would accept the endorsement, instead of saying, no, of course not, I'm going to reject the endorsement of someone that's threatened Canadian jobs and Canadian workers and our very sovereignty, he says he's a great guy. He compliments him. That shows a weakness of leadership, and it shows someone that is in the pocket of billionaires, and in this case, Elon Musk.
So I think, more specifically, I remember last week, Mr. Poilievre being asked about this sort of disagreement between Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, and other premiers. And it basically revolves around how far Canada should go in threatening to retaliate. Premier Smith argues that it wouldn't be logical to withhold, for example, oil exports or to apply an export tax. And so we shouldn't be threatening it if we don't actually plan to do it. Other premiers are saying you've got to keep even that on the table. Are you critical? Is that what you're saying? Like you would be putting all of that on the table? Or do you agree that it's not something that, in all likelihood we would ever follow through on? So why threaten it?
Well, we should have all tools on the table and not withdraw a tool that we could use in the negotiating table potentially prematurely. What's the benefit of withdrawing any tool? If we don't go there, we don't go there. But we need to leave all tools on the table. It seems to me that Danielle Smith is more interested in kissing up to Donald Trump and to appeasing him. She seems to be working for the wrong team. And Pierre Poilievre accepting the endorsement of Elon Musk, a guy that's a part of an administration that's threatened our country with economic pressure, threatened with tariffs, threatening Canadian jobs, threatening the cost of living going up even higher than it already is, to me shows conservatives that are not actually in a principle protecting Canadians, but are more interested in kissing up to billionaires or cozying up to billionaires and the president.
Has been, and I certainly do understand the criticism that you're levying, but it has been like we're so reliant on sending our stuff to the U.S., including oil, because there has not been any sort of will at the level of the federal government for building pipelines or other ways to get this product to other markets. I mean, your party and you specifically, Mr. Singh, have opposed the building of pipelines, including TMX, and spent the federal government spending money on that at every step of the way. Do you not, is there not some culpability there in the fact that we are so vulnerable as an export market when it comes to our energy to just the U.S.?
There's no doubt that diversification is important. We need to be able to produce more in our own country. We need to refine more in our own country. The fact that we have got such an incredible wealth of critical minerals, but we're not actually building the batteries in our country. We're not actually refining those products. With our timber as well, we log, but we don't refine or add value to the raw goods that we produce in our country. So that's serious. That's a serious concern that we have. The Liberals and Conservatives have been in power since the beginning of this country, and they've certainly failed on that front to develop a more developed economy, an economy that adds value to the raw resources that we have.
But Mr. Singh, I'm asking you about oil, right? You have been opposed to pipelines that would allow for Canada to export its oil to other places other than the United States. Was that a mistake?
I mean, I don't think that's relevant right now to the question of tariffs being imposed on Canada, and in response to that, us being willing to do whatever is necessary. And I disagree with Danielle Smith, who's prematurely pulling back a potential tool. I think in negotiating, you need to have all your tools ready to go, and you escalate them as necessary. We need to respond if there are tariffs with tariffs in kind. We also need to make it clear, I think, to the workers that might be impacted that we will have their back, that we will support them. So that's my focus.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, the relevancy is more in the medium to long term, right? In oil is one aspect of it, but essentially we're in a place where 4 years after we thought there wouldn't be another Donald Trump, there is one, and we're incredibly vulnerable to the prospect of any tariffs because of our reliance on the U.S. as an export market. And I was just asking about whether or not oil should only go there, or if there's some, if it's being short-sighted to essentially oppose getting oil to other places so that we're not so vulnerable.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't focus on just one product. I think in general, my response to that is in general, the previous governments, both conservative and liberal, have not built an economy in Canada where we do more than just take out raw materials out of the earth. We need to also refine products. We need to add value to products in our own country. We need to build more of the things that we need in Canada. That's clearly a fault of both liberals and conservatives who've been in power since the beginning of this country, that they've not built an economy that is more resilient and that is less vulnerable to the United States and someone like Donald Trump threatening tariffs. That's without a doubt.
Understood. Mr. Singh, I got one more question for you. I just want to get you on the record because I'm sure you're aware all these candidates are talking about maybe there won't be an election as soon as the spring. Maybe they can work out another arrangement with your party, like people behind the scenes. I wanted to ask you quite bluntly, you had said prior to Christmas that no matter what, at the earliest possible availability, that you would vote to bring the government down, that you would offer a vote of no confidence in the government. Is that still the case? Do you plan on doing that no matter what the economic circumstances, what Trump is doing, all the extenuating things?
Yeah, I've been really clear, and I remain clear, and I appreciate the opportunity to repeat it. We will be voting to bring down the government at the earliest opportunity. There will be an election and a choice where they tell me they feel let down by the Liberals. So the choice will be between conservatives like Pierre Poilievre, who want to cut the things that people need, and it's going to cost people a lot more, or New Democrats who want to lower your bills by making billionaires pay for once and bringing down the cost of living, building homes you can actually afford. That's going to be the next election, and we're ready for that.
Mr. Singh, I'll leave it on that note. Appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Thanks so much.